Why don't
here.
you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from? Tell us about your family. Tell us about your vocation, your ordination, your relationship with Christ, and what brought you to Nashotah House.
Yeah. So Yehoshua Odidi, it's my name. People here call me Yoshi, so maybe from here on out, Yoshi. Also, I think I'm actually wearing the Yoshi. What's it called now?
Oh, there you go.
Nice
shirt at the moment, so it's pretty cool. I didn't plan that, but I just realized that I'm wearing the shirt. I'm from Nigeria. Nigeria. When I first came here, everyone kept asking, "Where is Nigeria in Africa?" So it's West Africa, and it's west, but maybe toward the equator. So from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to the Sub-Saharan region, there's Benin Republic, Togo, Ghana, I think Sierra Leone or so, or Liberia. No, Sierra Leone, and then some other countries all the way to Mauritania, which is a bit up north. But West Africa, Nigeria. I've been in the States for 2 years, and I've not been out of my country until 2 years ago. So this past 2 years have been just an amazing adventure, different experiences, my worldview has expanded beyond what I had imagined possible. And even today, I'm still, every second I'm having to recalibrate, reassess what I think I know, what I think I understand and believe, why I think I believe what I think I believe, Anyway, but it's been such a fun adventure. I grew up in a Christian household. My parents are very, very, very serious Christians. And I'm grateful to God for that because, of course, serious Christians also not so serious to the point of, because I hear people saying they were scarred by their parents as Christians and all of that stuff. But my parents, thankfully, were very balanced people, still are very balanced people. So, yes, very serious Christians, but also okay, we need to tend to these guys and bring them up well. So I have 2 younger brothers. I'm also 31, by the way.
All right.
So
you guys are the same age.
Yeah, oh, I didn't even realize.
You're like a month older than I am, though. So I'm November 11th.
Oh, well, all right.
So yeah, my younger brother is also a priest. My youngest brother hopes to become a priest. Yehuda and Yehimo. My younger brother, the second born, is married. And what else? I'm a priest with the Diocese of Kaduna. Kaduna is in the northern region of Nigeria. I've been a priest for about 4 years now. Christian journey. So I personally gave my life to Christ at the age of 8. I remember my mom distinctively asking about if I loved Jesus, one devotion. I was like, yes, I do. And it's like, well, have you accepted him into your life? I'm like, I thought I did. It's like, well, have you? I'm like, I don't really remember, but I think so. And then we did that, So that for me was when officially my Christian journey, I can point back to that time that, yes, I actually did that. But before then, I'd been raised a Christian. I wasn't baptized until I was in, because we were not Anglicans at that point. We were actually say, we were Pentecostals. I think that's what we were, but more missionaries. So my dad was a missionary with this very wonderful man of God called Matthew Ojaye. Anyway, he did a couple of nice things, went to some places, was in touch with villages, wonderful crusades and stuff, and revivals and all that stuff. It was really good. Anyway, but he eventually became Anglican. I think in 2000 to 2001. When I was in grade 8, if I recall properly, I think that's when I was baptized. So I wasn't baptized at least 6 years after. I mean, 6, yeah, there we go. Anyway, after I did that nice, wonderful oral confession with my mom, so idea was to go to school, finish school, blah, 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 get a job, get some money, establish myself, be a businessman, hopefully at some point, again, get some money, all that good stuff, right? But my parents had always said, hey, you guys are part of a legacy. You're going to be your priests, right? So I'm like, and they would always quote, I think it was, is it 1st or 2nd Peter, your royal priesthood, right? Chosen generation, anyway. So I was like, okay, sure, yes. As long as I can get all these other things I wanted to do, right? Anyway, but as time would go on, things were shaping up, pushing me toward church. And at first I tried to fight it, but then I was like, okay, let's not fight this. Let's keep going. So it started with my course in school. I wanted to just do archaeology, but I couldn't find. Anyway, it's a long story. Point is, I eventually told God that I would agree to be a priest on the condition that a bishop just came to me and told me, hey, you will be a priest, or I want to priest you, or I want to ordain you, right? And that usually doesn't happen, at least not when you're young. It happens to people who are like way, what's the word now? Who've done like something significant, to actually draw the attention of the bishop. Usually people go express their intention of calls to ministry, they vet you and all of that, and then you go through the processes, and then you're ordained when they find you fit. And it takes a while, But I thought to escape this whole line of work, I would give God this, what's the word now? Ultimatum. This is the deal here, right? So, and then I would hopefully now have the time to attend to other things like, businesses, get money, establish myself. Then maybe when I was like 40-something years old, at that time, the church would have maybe recognized me or something. You're like, no, this guy should be a priest. And then, boom, that was the only way it was going to happen. I was in for a shock, because apparently I was working in a seminary in Zaria. And we went for one of the graduation of some of our students who were being ordained as deacons. Anyway, so Bishop sees me. We talk a little bit. And like, you look like a pastor. I'm like, oh, sure. And he's like, well, anyway, he, of course, asked me some questions that I answered. Again, not really thinking about why he was asking those questions. It was later on that my dean was like, this man is thinking about ordaining you. That's why he's asking these questions. I'm like, there's no way this is happening right now. Because anyway, point is, a year and a half later, I receive a call. Hey, you've been drafted.
Oh,
wow.
I'm like, what? So it's like, should you accept, here's how it's going to work. If you can obviously say you don't want to, if you don't, and I'm like, oh my God.
Wow.
Anyway, so
he called your bluff.
Yo, it was wild. It was out of this world. I couldn't believe it. And
that's amazing.
Right up to the point where I actually knelt down and they laid hands on me. I was like, I mean, yeah, we had like this 7-day retreat, fasting, prayers. I saw some of like friends that I knew, some of my students as well, who were also being ordained. And because my father was in this diocese for a while too as well before. My dad is also in the States right now. Anyway, so cut me short. I talk a lot, so tell me.
No, this is great.
But up to the point where hands were laid, I was, I wouldn't say I was unsure. I was like, I thought I was just dreaming about this. I was like, is this really happening right now? Anyway, and so that's my story. Very, very interesting story. Very, out of the ordinary. It's very, I think it's kind of peculiar.
So you would say, I mean, I would say that you were called. I mean, it wasn't necessarily something that you wanted to do, but God's like, okay, I'm calling you.
Yeah. I mean, I knew the call was there, and I just was running away from it. And I thought I was smart enough to give God or give myself the time. So I was like, okay, I thought, what's the word now? Orchestrate a condition where I would have enough time to pursue other ambitions. Yeah. Then when I'm done, I can now come back, I guess the joke was on me. It's like, nope.
And get back here.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, this is how you wanted it to be, right? So here are the conditions. I'm like, oh, darn it. I guess I can't say no right now. So
that's funny. Now, when you have a call like that, or at least you're fulfilling something that God is asking you to do in this way, becoming a priest that's a huge thing. That's a huge calling. Have you seen that transform into new things as you step into this role? Like, do you understand why he wanted you to become a priest yet?
I mean, again, right from a small age, I knew that, and not just me, because I spoke with my brothers too as well, and we've had this understanding that all of us understood that we were actually called to ministry. We just didn't know how it was going to work. Well, for me, I suspected I was going to eventually become a priest. But back home, you see priests and you're like, sometimes, not all the time, you're like, I don't think I want to be a priest, man. First of all, you're like tied down to authority. Your salary is like, ugh, somehow you're able to figure things out. You're constantly having to be shepherding people who may or may not appreciate what you're doing. And you're always in the eye of people. Like, they're always scrutinizing your every little move. It is daunting to think about. And so I'm like, I don't know if I want to go through this right now, But to your question again, one of the ways I knew that I was always somehow called to ministry was because, again, I always had this was like how Timothy was, ingrained with the faith by his mother and grandmother. It's the same way my parents just made us not just understand the Christian faith, but love it. And I'd always wanted to just want to live my life in a way that shows people that, hey, to be a Christian is not such a weird thing. I mean, it can be weird sometimes, but it's not scary weird. It can be scary sometimes. The point is, it's good. Right? It's good. It's not like a taboo. It's not like, ugh. It does have the benefits far outweigh whatever you think is scary or weird or creepy about it or whatever. The benefits far away, right? So, and over the years, people have said you have a very interesting way of expressing your faith, and that has been a consistent sort of I don't want to use the word testimony, but what people say about me. I like the way you present yourself as a Christian, right? And it's been constant, So when I became a priest, I just tried to continue that. So, okay, I'm not going to be all holier than thou, but at the same time, I'm not going to make a joke of what I am, right? So I'm going to invite people to my home. Let's watch soccer, because soccer is really big in Nigeria. I'm going to play soccer with the kids. I'm going to go for, not parties, but get-togethers and hangouts with the more mature, classy folks. So basically just being in situations with people and just being, I use the word, approachable. and hopefully with my candor, with the way I speak, with the way I behave, they understand, this is not so bad. And then when we actually talk Bible, talk stuff, okay, So to your question,
you're relatable.
Yeah, relatable. Yeah. So to your question, that was how I saw fit to express this new ministry that I found myself in, So just trying to be as relatable as possible, and making sure that people don't feel, either the pastor or the Christian faith or the Bible is something that's so far off. It's like, no. Like Deuteronomy 8, which is one of my best, I think it's Deuteronomy 8:5. One of my best scripture verses. It's like, have you ever, this is God speaking through Moses to Deja. It's like, have you ever heard of, and I'm paraphrasing the verse, have you ever heard of a nation, or have you heard of any other nation who can boast about a God or their God, such as yours, who is so close to you or who is so near you? So it's like, in other places, it's like, this is so big and weird and mysterious and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, I think God is like a very relatable, person. And you just relate with God. Shikena means that's all in Hausa. So, like, that's it. It's not so complicated. You just relate. And that's, so, yeah.
Yoshi, do you think that, because I've met a lot of Anglicans that were previously Pentecostal, or, here it's Assemblies of God, and maybe they took a path through, I've met several that have passed through, say, a Reformed phase. Maybe they became Presbyterians, and I'm speaking of myself, and then all of a sudden found themselves in an Anglican. But I've found so many people that kind of what I call climb the candlestick a little bit, into more. And then Nashotah House is very much climbing the candlestick, right? It's very Anglo-Catholic.
Oh, yes.
So do you feel like your Pentecostal upbringing at an early age has you've brought some of that with you into the Anglican world?
I think so. And I think before this show started, I was talking about this with you guys, the whole idea of ecumenism, right? So, and it's not just me. Now, the Anglican Church is, there's the Roman Catholic Church. I'd like to think the Anglican Church is the second most influential, of Christian organizations. Well, yes, the Greek Orthodox Church is also quite influential, but I think the Anglican Church is I think a bit more widespread. Anyway, but I say that to say that the biggest of strains of Anglicanism is in Nigeria. So Nigeria is the largest Anglican body right now in the world.
Oh, wow.
And growing fast.
Really?
So, now, one of the reasons for this, people think it's because of exponential birth rates in the country. That could be part of the reason, but there really was some sort of revival, right, in the Anglican Church, because it used to be known as well. Here we have the Frozen Chosen, but we used to have similar whatever for the Anglican Church back home, but many people who were raised Anglicans went to schools, went through this whole Pentecostal revival stuff. Some started their own churches, but some came back and brought that charisma, that spirit, that energy back into the church. And we're like, hey, we understand what you're doing. We respect what you're doing, but we think that there's a way to do this that actually speaks to us. So you said you're going to be talking about John the Baptist today, and maybe about Lent and all of that. Back when we say, yes, let's go through the church calendar. Let's go through the cycle. Let's do all of that. But we don't need to wait for a particular season to do this. We don't need to wait for, so they brought this nice Pentecostal, energy and vibe to the Anglican Church And that brought back like,
maybe more Holy Spirit.
It made the church like just burst, like, because
Wow.
younger folk are like, okay, we can actually get into this. You know, now we have like contemporary churches alongside the main bigger like traditional churches.
Mm-hmm.
And once a month or so, the more contemporary churches would fuse with the bigger church and have like one service. So there's you know, point is, it wasn't just me with, you know, it happened with a lot of us back home where the Pentecostal effects ran strong. Now, that's one way. The other way is this. Pentecostalism actually grew exponentially in Nigeria too as well. You know, you had like Living Faith Church, Redeemed Christian Church of God, you know, and a couple of others. But these guys grew so big, they needed a way to manage the growth. Guess who they came to? The Anglicans.
Yeah.
Right.
You're like, okay, let's see your prayer books. Let's see your constitutions. Let's see how your polity. Let's see how you organize things, because we have, you know, like our church is way bigger than we can handle. Let's see how we can. How are you guys organizing yourselves? So the influence cuts, at least to me, it cuts both ways, and that's why I speak to the idea of ecumenism, where we're learning from each other and we're helping each other, and we have what we call CAN, the Christian Association of Nigeria, where we have like joint, you know, stuff, maybe once a month, once 3 months. Anyway, point is, so it's not just me.
I'm sorry, Yoshi. Jake's trying to get our attention.
Oh yeah, I just want to let you know that your video feed is frozen, Dan.
Whose is?
Yours.
Oh, all right. I'll refresh it.
All right. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Right.
So that, not just for me, but I think on a larger scale, has influenced the Anglican Church, at least in Nigeria.
So Yoshi, is that Pentecostal revival, or that that Anglican revival in Nigeria? I know there's a connection there with the African bishops sending missionaries and making an effort in North America. Is that the genesis of the what is it, the AN or ACNA?
Well, I obviously don't have all the information, and I most likely, definitely, I'm not an authoritative. What's it called now? My statements are far from being authoritative, so I will. Please just, you know, fact check me. And anyway, point is, no, not really. The whole like episcopal break and all of that. I think it started way, say maybe in the 70s through 80s, I think. You know, I'm trying to remember the guy who preached a sermon about what's it called now? The falsity of the resurrection. Something of the sort. This is way back. Way back in the day. And it went like viral. It was known. It wasn't like it was just one small church. Like, people heard about this. And this person was not called to order. This person was not like, okay, what do you mean? Why are you saying this? You know, this person was just allowed to do what they did. And a certain faction kept growing from the Episcopal Church that kept, again, no offense, I guess, speaking and teaching things and saying things that raised questions to, seemed to be seemed to contradict or to be in contrast with, at least, like you said, Nicene Creed, right? So, you know, so it's like, well, you want to call these guys to order, don't you? You know, you want to like, and then of course it now spiraled into like women's ordination and all of that stuff, you know, and then so it grew for a while, you know. So you had like the Reformed, is it the RCC or the Reformed Continuum or the something like that, you know, or the REC, you know, those guys had broken away way back in the day. So there had been some little breaks going on, and then I think it was 2008 or so. You know, anyway, the whole idea of like homosexual bishops and all of that was, I guess, the final straw that broke the camel's back, right? So strong bishops, yes, like Bishop Akinola and Okon of Nigeria. I'm trying to remember the names of the bishops in Uganda and I think Kenya as well.
And they've been sending missionaries to England, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, because they're like, okay, you guys are definitely not getting this, anyway. So, and the fact that we also have like Nigerians, a large congregate or populace of say Nigerians or Africans in those places who want to have like, traditional leadership, and guide. We provide for these guys, and then if other people want to be a part of that, sure. So I think that's how that started.
Yeah, right. At least I think it's beautiful. I think it's really fun that, especially the British planted Anglicanism all around the world, and now the world, especially Africa, is bringing Orthodox Anglicanism back to England and North America. I think that's God has a great sense of humor. The same way that he kind of called you out on your fleece, it's just another.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, hey, how did you end up at Nashotah House?
So because I was already a priest. I knew some things about theology. I at least understood my faith to the level that I thought I was comfortable. And I was teaching in a seminary, so I knew some things, but I wasn't very conversant with like serious church history, the patristics, all of that. I wasn't the philosophical arguments and all of that. I wasn't really conversant with that. So I thought, well, I should look into this. And part of my reason for doing this was also to become a professor, right? So to teach people who would hopefully become priests. So again, like, sow a seed in their lives, this is me thinking exponential growth here. So like if I influence one influences 1,000, that's good. Then I influence 26, then hey. So that was the idea, while I also do some church work too as well, right? So come here, get the necessary education, perhaps get into the academia, but also personally understand a bit more about the faith from an angle that I'd not been exposed to. So England was a choice, Germany was a choice, here was a choice. And eventually Nashotah House opened up and they said it was Anglo-Catholic. I was like, well, I've never experienced that strain of Anglicanism before, so I think that's where I want to go to. So
nice. And it's very Orthodox.
Oh, yes.
Which is
Anglo-Catholic, so basically it's the only really, really recognizable difference between us and Catholics is the fact that we don't acknowledge. Well, we acknowledge the papacy, but we don't he has no control over us. That's technically the only real, for me, major difference.
Well, and then one of the blessings of being an Anglican versus a Roman Catholic is you can get married.
Oh, yes. That
would be worth it.
Get married in the Roman Catholic Church as well, though.
You can?
Yeah.
Well, not as a priest.
So
you could be an Anglican priest and then transfer with your wife into priesthood in the Roman Catholic Church.
So it's an oath that you swear, or what's it called now? How do you put this? It's not part of the requirements for being a priest.
Interesting.
But yeah, of course, it's encouraged, and usually that's the way people go. But there are many Roman Catholic priests who are married. I know at least one personal good friend of mine who is, well, he's no longer a Roman Catholic, but the Roman, they're trying to get him back.
Are there?
It's okay that you're married. You haven't broken any real vows. Blah 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 blah.
Oh, wow.
You know, and then so the
Wow.
there are ways around that.
Well,
Okay,
very
so
cool.
we're pushing 1:30 our time, Central Time,
Mm.
and I think we'll get into the study today. Is that all right, Jake?
Yeah.